There's a lot of misunderstanding and confusion regarding self-knowledge. And this is mainly due to our definition of knowledge, or what we think knowledge is. That knowledge is the knowledge of something. We can have the knowledge of math, knowledge of science, knowledge of geography, knowledge of anything. And that's what we refer to as knowledge, the knowledge of something. But self-knowledge is not the knowledge of something. Self-knowledge is really the knowledge of no thing. So your entire life, you gain knowledge of things. You point at something. What's that? Your mom tells you, that's a bird. What's that? That's a squirrel. What's that? That's a tree. What's that? That's a home. What's that? That's a car. We start gaining knowledge. Knowledge of the alphabet. Knowledge of numbers. So all of this is knowledge. This type of knowledge is the knowledge that is gained. Something is gained. Knowledge of something. But self-knowledge is not gaining anything. So this misunderstanding of knowledge, mainly self-knowledge, is due to how we conceive of knowledge, our concept of what knowledge is. And then we apply that to self-knowledge. Oh, okay, so self-knowledge must be knowledge of this thing called self. But you see, self is what you are. All of the other knowledge that you've had up to this point is objective knowledge. It's knowledge of objects, the tree, the bird, the squirrel, the car, the home. These are objects. So when we refer to knowledge, we're always referring to objective knowledge. But self-knowledge is not objective knowledge. It's subjective knowledge. It's knowledge of the subject. The subject is the self. So knowledge of the subject will not be objective knowledge. So we go through life gaining knowledge. Knowledge of the alphabet, knowledge of numbers. And this is often referred to as learning. And when we apply this to self-knowledge, we think that we can learn about ourselves. We think that we can just make the subject, which is the self, another object and treat it just like math or science or geography or chemistry. But it can't. Because it's the subject. When we look at our schooling system and we have these different subjects, such as science or chemistry or biology or math, geography, religion, all of these different subjects that you can study in school. Well, these subjects aren't really subjects because these subjects are actually objects. It's objective knowledge. An object is a thing. So you're learning about something called biology. You're learning about something called chemistry. You're learning about something called geography. So these so-called subjects are actually objects. And we believe to be acquiring knowledge of a certain subject, but really it's just knowledge of an object. The tree is the object. The bird is the object. The squirrel is the object. Math is the object. Geography is the object. And we go through life with all of this objective knowledge, gaining objective knowledge. And we overlook, well, what is it that is knowing this objective knowledge? See, there's knowledge of an object. Such as the numbers or the alphabet, math, geography, chemistry, biology. But what is it that's knowing? Well, that would be the subject. It's the subject that's knowing the object. But we confuse this body mind to be the subject. But this body mind is not the subject. Because there's a knowing of the body, there's a knowing of the mind. The body is an object. It's experienced objectively. There's qualities to the body. The mind is an object. The mind is appearing to you. The body is appearing to you. Both the mind and the body have objective qualities. You can describe them objectively. So now the mind, the body are seen to be objects. Just like biology. Biology is the object. Biology is the study of the body. Psychology is the object. Psychology is the study of the mind. But what is it that's knowing the body and the mind objectively? Well, that's the subject. It's the subject that's knowing the object. So when seen like this, what we take to be the subject knowing something, such as the camera, as being the object, we set up this subject and object relationship. But when we start seeing that this is also an object, just like the camera, that this body is a thing, that the mind is a thing, we are now beyond both body and mind. The knowing is beyond body and mind. And the knowing is the subject. It is the subject that is knowing the body objectively. It is the subject that is knowing the mind objectively. So this self-knowledge is really self-knowing. This self-knowledge is the knowing of self. It's the knowing of the subject. You can interchange subject with self. Subject knowledge. Subject knowing. It's when the subject is knowing itself. And actually, the subject is always knowing itself. The subject actually only knows itself. So this self-knowledge is really self-knowing. And it's only self-knowing. Meaning, a separate entity will never know the self. It's only the self that knows itself. It's only the subject that knows itself. No object can know the subject. So this body-mind will never know the self, because this body-mind is an object. This object will never know the subject. But realize that it's you that knows the body-mind. But when you hear that word you believe to be the body-mind. But it is you, the knowing, that knows the body-mind. Self is synonymous with knowing. The subject is synonymous with knowing. The subject is not going to know something other than itself. Other would be object. So self-knowledge is non-objective knowledge. And you see that your entire life, all you know thus far, or so it appears to be, is objective knowledge, knowledge of objects. And by realizing that which is knowing all objects, including the body-mind, is the true you. And the true you is knowing. That is self-knowledge, self-knowing, that you are knowing yourself. And you will never know yourself as an object, because you are the subject. And this subject that you are is self-knowing. Now, this subject or self goes by many names. Goes by God, goes by life, goes by love, goes by self, goes by subject. Many names. It's only God that knows God. It's only life that knows life. It's only self that knows self. It's only love that knows love. And you are that. Hopefully this helps. See you in the next one.